The sound of rain against my office window always brings back memories I wish I could forget. It's been 10 years since I last saw my parents. 10 long years since the night they told me to leave and never come back. Now, I sit behind a glass desk worth more than a house I grew up in. My name is printed on the door in gold letters. People call me sir now, but deep inside, I still hear the voice of that scared 16-year-old begging. Please don't leave me. I worked hard for everything I have. No one handed me a single thing. Every success I achieved came from pain, hunger, and sleepless nights. But just when I thought I had finally buried the past, my phone rang, and the voice on the other end sent a chill down my spine. "Hello, sir," the woman said. "There's a couple here asking to meet you. They say they desperately need your help. They don't seem to recognize who you are." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded in my chest. I knew those voices. I knew those names. It was them. The parents who once abandoned me were now standing outside my office, asking for help, completely unaware that the person they were begging from was their own son. I stood up slowly, staring at the rain. Fate had finally come full circle, and this time I was ready. I still remember that night as if it were carved into my soul. The air was cold, and the smell of rain mixed with the sound of my parents arguing in the next room. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching my school bag, hoping the shouting would stop, but it only got louder. "We can't afford him any more, Daniel," my mother cried. "He's 16, my father shouted back. "He's old enough to take care of himself. We have our own lives to worry about." My heart dropped. For a second, I thought I had misheard them. But then my mom entered my room, eyes red, hands shaking. "Pack your things," she said quietly. "It's better for everyone." Better for everyone. That phrase haunted me for years. I begged them to let me stay. I promised I'd find a job, that I wouldn't be a burden. But they were already packing their own bags. They said they were moving to another city for a fresh start. I was not part of that start. When they left, they didn't even look back. The door slammed, and the silence that followed was louder than any words they could have said. I sat on the doorstep all night, rain soaking through my clothes, waiting for them to return. They never did. The next morning, I had nothing, no money, no home, and no family. Just a few clothes, a torn notebook, and a promise I made to myself through tears. One day, they'll see me again, but not as the helpless boy they left behind. They'll see what their rejection created. That night didn't just break me, it built me, and I swore I'd never need anyone's love or approval to survive again. The days after they left were the hardest of my life. I had nowhere to go and no one to call. I slept under an old bridge that first week, using my backpack as a pillow and my jacket as a blanket. Every night, I watched the city lights from afar, wondering if my parents were looking at the same sky, or if they even remembered me. Hunger hit like a storm. I searched trash bins behind restaurants, hoping to find something to eat. People walked past me like I was invisible. Some threw coins, others threw insults. Both hurt the same. One morning, after 2 days without food, I fainted near a small bakery. When I opened my eyes, a middle-aged man was kneeling beside me, offering water. "You look like you haven't eaten in days," he said. His name was Mr. Harris, the bakery owner. He gave me bread and let me clean tables in exchange for meals. It wasn't much, but to me, it felt like hope. He didn't ask questions about my past. He just said, "Work hard, kid. Life listens to those who don't give up." Those words became my strength. I started saving every coin I earned. I washed dishes, carried boxes, and delivered bread across town. At night, I studied old textbooks I found in a dumpster. I wanted to be more than a boy who was left behind. Sometimes, I'd see families laughing through the bakery window. It hurt, but also reminded me what I wanted. A life where I never had to beg for love or money again. Weeks turned into months, and slowly, I began to stand on my own. The pain was still there, but it had changed. It wasn't weakness anymore, it was fire. And I knew deep inside this was just the beginning of my story. Years passed, and the boy who once begged for food was gone. Mr. Harris's bakery became more than a job. It was my training ground. I learned discipline, patience, and the value of earning every crumb. When I turned 18, Mr. Harris handed me a small envelope. Inside was a few $100s and a note that said, "Start your life. Son, you've earned it." That night, I left town with nothing but that envelope and a dream that burned brighter than fear. I moved to the city and found work cleaning offices. Every night, after everyone went home, I sat at a desk I wasn't supposed to use, teaching myself computers, marketing, and business through free tutorials. Sleep was a luxury. Progress was my addiction. I failed countless times. My first business idea collapsed within weeks. I lost money, trust, and confidence. But I never forgot that cold night at 16. Every failure reminded me, "You survived worse." Then came my break. I created a small online service that helped local shops sell their goods digitally. It started small, just a few clients. But my hard work spoke louder than my past. Within 2 years, the company grew faster than I ever imagined. Investors called. Reporters wrote articles. People who once ignored me now wanted to shake my hand. But inside, I stayed the same, quiet, focused, and hungry for more. Every time I saw my reflection in the office window, I saw that 16-year-old boy looking back, whispering, "We made it." By 26, I was the CEO of one of the fastest-growing firms in the city. I had wealth, power, and respect. Everything I once thought could replace love. But deep inside, there was still one chapter of my story left unfinished. The part where I finally faced the people who gave me nothing and showed them what their rejection had created. It had been 10 years since I left that small town. 10 years since I'd last seen the cracked roads, the old bakery, or the house that once held all my pain. When my car rolled past a faded welcome sign, memories hit me like a wave. Everything looked smaller now. The streets, the houses, even the fears that once seemed so big. No one recognized me. Why would they? To them, I was just another stranger in a black suit, driving a car that looked too expensive for this place. I stopped by Mr. Harris's bakery first. It looked different, newer, brighter. He was older now, with gray in his hair, but his smile hadn't changed. He hugged me tightly. "You did it, son," he said proudly. "You kept your promise." I spent the next few days quietly buying property around town, the old school of few stores, even my parents' former neighborhood. People started whispering about a mysterious investor changing everything. They didn't know it was me. Then one evening, as I walked near the old street where I once slept hungry, I saw a familiar house. Broken windows, peeling paint, silence. It was theirs. I stood there for a long time, my heart torn between anger and pity. I heard rumors that my parents had fallen on hard times, debts, illnesses, and regret chasing them like shadows. Part of me felt satisfaction. Another part felt something heavier, sadness for the people who had traded love for comfort and lost both. I thought I was done with them. I thought I could move on. But fate had other plans. Because the next morning, my assistant entered my office with a nervous look. "Sir," she said softly, "there's a couple here asking to meet you. They say they desperately need help." And just like that, the past had found me again. I froze when my assistant spoke those words. A couple asking for help. Something about her tone made my chest tighten. Did they say their names? I asked. She checked her tablet. "Yes, sir. Mr. and Mrs. Miller." The room fell silent. My last name. For a moment, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. The same names I tried to forget for years were back, knocking on my door. Only this time, I was the one in control. "Send them in," I said quietly. My heart pounded as the door opened. Too tired. Older faces stepped into the room. My father's once strong shoulders were hunched, and my mother's hair had turned gray. Their clothes looked worn, their eyes hollow. They didn't recognize me. Not the boy they left in the rain. Not the son who once cried outside their door. My mother smiled nervously. "Good afternoon, sir. We were told you help struggling families. We've lost our home and our business failed. We just need a little support to get back on our feet." My father cleared his throat, forcing a grin. "We can repay you someday. We used to have a son who was, well, he didn't make much of himself." That sentence cut deeper than any knife. I looked at them for a long moment, fighting every emotion inside me. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to cry. Instead, I spoke calmly. "Tell me about your son." They looked at each other, embarrassed. My mother sighed. "He was a troubled boy. We did everything we could for him, but he just drifted away. We don't even know where he is now." I stood up slowly, walking to window. "You really don't know?" I said quietly. They looked confused. I turned around. "You're standing in his office." Silence. My mother's lips trembled. My father's face went pale. For a moment, none of us spoke. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. "You left me when I was 16, I said softly. "And now you've come back, asking your son for help, without even recognizing him." Their eyes filled with tears. And mine? Mine were dry. I had no tears left to give. My parents stared at me like they were seeing a ghost. My mother's hands began to shake, and my father's mouth opened, but no words came out. I don't understand," my mother whispered. "You're our son?" "Yes," I said quietly. "The same son you left behind because he was too much trouble. The one you said was old enough to take care of himself." Tears filled her eyes. "We thought you'd be better off without us. We were struggling, and—" I cut her off gently. "You didn't think. You decided. You chose comfort over love." My father stepped forward, tried to look strong, but his voice cracked. "We made mistakes, but we're still your parents." I looked at him, the man who once told me to pack my things and leave. He looked so small now, so fragile. I spent years starving, sleeping under bridges, fighting to stay alive. I said, "And not once did you look for me. Not once did you care." He looked down at the floor, silent. My mother reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "I don't hate you," I said after a long pause. "I wanted to. For a long time, I did. But hate doesn't build anything. It only destroys. So I built instead. I built a life, a company, a name, all from the pieces you left behind." They both began to cry, whispering apologies, begging for forgiveness. I felt my throat tighten, but I stayed calm. "I forgive you," I said softly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean I can forget. You taught me something valuable. That love without loyalty means nothing." I turned to leave, stopping at the door. "You wanted me gone back then. Now you have my help, but not my heart." As I walked away, I heard my mother's sob echo through the room. It didn't make me happy. It just made me realize how heavy forgiveness can feel. Days passed after that meeting, but their faces stayed in my mind, not as enemies, but as people broken by their own choices. I didn't cut them off completely. I arranged for them to receive a small house, monthly support, and medical care. I never visited, though some distances are meant to remain. At night, I often stood by my office window, looking at the city lights. Once, those lights had felt like stars I could never reach. Now they surrounded me, bright, endless, and mine. But the truth was simple. All the money, power, and success couldn't erase the 16-year-old boy who once cried in the rain. What healed him was revenge. It was peace. Forgiving them didn't make the past disappear. It just stopped it from controlling my future. I smiled quietly to myself. "They gave me nothing," I whispered. "But from that nothing, I built everything." The rain began to fall again outside my window. Soft, steady, familiar. Only this time, it didn't sound like pain. It sounded like freedom.